Well, housing affordability is now at its worst level since the global financial crisis more than a decade ago.
The solution to Australia's housing affordability problem is abundantly clear. Build more homes. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You don't need an economics degree to tell you that one. Government after government have known this, yet continuously failed to deliver it. As a result, fast forward a few decades, and we live in a time where fewer and fewer young Australians actually own their own home and even believe that they'll be able to do it one day. We have housing affordability at its worst point in 50 years on a number of financial metrics too.
New figures show the average Aussie household with two incomes spent 30.9% of their salary just to meet February's mortgage repayments.
In this video, I'm going to go through what exactly is Australia's housing policy. What are we doing about this housing affordability crisis? The way I see it, there's four key players to meeting the solution: building more homes. The first player is the federal government. The second player is the state government. The third player is developers. And lastly, banks and financial institutions. Hi, I'm Reedham Syed, founder of Confidence Finance, 6 times top 100 mortgage broker here in Australia, and I work with thousands of property investors all across the country, helping them build, grow, and scale their property investment portfolios. If you're interested in Australian property, the Australian economy, and housing markets in general, definitely hit that subscribe button and join us on Australian Property Talk with Freedom. Let's get started. The federal government. Let's watch this video with Prime Minister Albanese talking about our latest housing policy.
We're talking about housing and housing supply.
The result of that talk, a $3 billion new home bonus, incentives to the states to ease planning restrictions and release land to build a new target of 1.2 million homes, up from 1 million, over 5 years from 2024.
In short, upfront money to get housing moving quickly.
The new money, $15,000 for each of the 200,000 homes built in addition to the original 1 million house target.
So what is he actually saying? Australia has had a soft target for a number of years to build 1 million homes every 5 years. This is the rough level that the federal government has come up with to meet housing demand in normal circumstances. Now, population growth rates are really high at the moment and projected to be a bit higher than average over the next 5 years. So what they've done is lift the target from 1 million to 1.2 million. So the policy is about building more homes and providing incentives, a monetary bazooka to the states and giving them what they really want to make it happen. So if you view it as kind of like a little business, you have the federal government up here and they are the leaders, the board, the one that sits there and says, this is what we want to achieve. That's what they've got. Now, to make it happen, they've employed the states to go and deliver these homes. And if they can, they're giving the states a big, fat, juicy bonus for each individual home that they build on top of that million mark that we hit on average over this 5-year period. If you start getting to 1.2, we're going to give you $15K for each home that you go and build above this level. It's kind of like the federal government setting up a BA fee, a buyer's agent fee for each home above this level and saying, look, we'll give you the money, states. What they're actually doing is providing incentives. Money talks, and that's what the federal government can do. Now, in Australia, the federal government don't own all the land in Australia. It's owned by private participants, the states, different players. The federal government does own some land, of course, large parts of land as well, but they don't own land in the pockets where people want to live so much. And states have far more power to actually implementing delivery of building homes. But the federal government sets the broad direction. They also have a whole range of other housing policies, largely targeting the affordable sector. They want certain homes to meet lower income households. They provide social housing. They provide rent assistance schemes. They provide all forms of welfare payments to help those with less actually be able to afford homes. So they have a whole range of policies here. And recently, a few months ago, they negotiated a scheme with the Greens and with key senators to go and create a housing fund to go and build more affordable homes. So that's one end of the spectrum, the affordable home spectrum. But the majority of people actually just need a home to live in and participate in the private market where it's just like, look, can I go buy a house to live in? Can I go buy it or rent it? And can I make that happen? So for the majority, it's about the federal government doesn't play that much of a role other than creating the incentives and the structure and sort of helping the states go and deliver it by giving them the cash that they need. I really enjoy this policy. I like this policy because I really do believe money talks. And when you give the states this level of cash, $3 billion worth, they go and make things happen. They want that money. States are always fighting with the federal government about, I need more money. I need more money. I need more money. That is what they say. They're like a little child that says, I want a little lolly when you go to the store. That's the state government to the federal government. And the federal government's always there being like, look, I don't want to give you more money. You handle your own budget. But now they're saying, if you go and do this and solve this problem, we're going to give you a whole bunch of money. As a parent to a young girl, a young little toddler, if I give her a little cookie, usually it's not money, definitely not 15K sort of money. But if I give her a little cookie to go and make something happen, she finds it far more motivating to do. It's human instinct. It's the way it works. Money talks in this sort of problem bigger than anything. And it's a huge amount of money. It's $3 billion worth or $15,000 for each individual home above this level. Don't know if it's going to actually work, but it is a pretty cool policy to actually making it happen. The second key player, the state government. This is the most important player. They're like the CEO. If the federal government's the board, the state government is the CEO, the people in charge to actually deliver more housing. They do this by controlling planning rules. They also own lots of land and they have the ability to make wide-scale changes to make the feasibility of building a home far more attractive. They also play a large role in taxation. There's a lot of taxes out there when it comes to housing. There's land tax, there's stamp duty, there's Section 94 contributions here in New South Wales, there's SECs, which is like effectively taxes on developers to go and develop and build new homes. They control a lot of the feasibility. They also control what you can build. They're really the puppet stringers to solving the housing affordability problem because they can build more homes. This policy came out by the federal government a month or two ago, not very long ago. And very soon after, New South Wales, where we live in Sydney, they're already pushing out lots of momentum, lots of new policies to go and building more homes. The planning department is acting in overdrive. They're saying, get it done. We will support you. We'll upzone land around key metro stations, key locations. We want housing to be here and we're going to go up big. And if it's really, really big, then the feasibilities will look better. So you're going to go and do it. We're going to make sure that our planning rules let you do it. On top of that, this is a really cool policy as well. They're changing statewide planning rules, the CDC framework that allows more density in infill areas, in existing areas. So areas like, all across Sydney where you see old homes, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, a lot of R2 land all across Sydney on, those 500-600 blocks. Those sites that couldn't be duplexes, they're saying turn into duplexes. Those sites that are duplexes, they're saying turn it into a triplex, turn it into a terrace development. And in really well located spots, they're coming up with these things called pattern design housing. Like when you go to Paddington, all the homes look quite similar. So they're using pattern book housing designs as well. They've got that as an idea. If you go to an area and you just want to build this type of home, we'll let you go and do it. Here's the architectural designs. Here's the blueprint. Go and use this blueprint. We'll approve it. Go get it done. A whole range of policies. The state government is already acting on it and trying to deliver planning framework to go and build these homes.
The New South Wales government has announced a radical overhaul of planning laws to help fix the state's housing crisis. Councils will be forced to lift long-standing bans on building terraces, townhouses and two-storey apartment blocks in low-density areas.
They also control taxes and other metrics, but at the end of the day, the states want their money, the government wants their money, and developers are typically a really good source of solving financial issues. So they'd rather just change planning, get the developers to build the homes, and take the money from the federal government, who's now providing that 15K bonus for each home that you build. You saw this in COVID. Think of Home Builder, the Home Builder scheme. So this was a scheme that the federal government came out with to incentivize Australians all around the country to go and build their home and bring forward that delivery of building their home. As a result, more and more people built homes, the demand for construction shot up, and went on a home building spree during COVID. A little bit of an ugly inflation issue as a result, because all these people wanted homes, there was all these supply issues, there was supply bottlenecks, bit of an ugly combination. But nonetheless, the federal government got the spur of motivation from the private sector in this case with the home buyer scheme. Now, instead of targeting the developers and builders and homeowners all across the country directly, they're targeting the states because they have much more power than an individual homeowner and saying, we'll give you cash, get it done. That's probably what they wanted as well to get this result. They're probably going to the federal government and saying, can I have a little bit of money to go and solve this problem, please? You know, money talks. If you give me money, I'm more likely to get it done. It's a little bit like a business transaction within the government, federal government, state government. For us, it's just money moving around between governments. At the end of the day, it's just different types of taxes collected on citizens, moving between departments, really. But it's a real key policy to actually delivering this. The third and most important player, in my opinion, is developers. The state government, by and large, don't build homes. The federal government, by and large, don't build homes. But developers, on the flip side, they're the ones that are actually going to be on the ground, shoveling things out and building these homes and making everything happen. They are the MVP. The CEO may be the people setting the direction and the board, but you need your team. You need a lot of people to go and do this. That's what developers are. And developers follow the money. A developer only builds a home if the numbers make sense to do so. If their feasibility looks good, they'll go and do it. If the feasibility doesn't make sense or is borderline, or if interest rates are high and can't absorb the additional costs in certain environments, and the feasibility doesn't look good, you ain't going to go and do it. The best way for a developer to go and actually make things happen is to increase their profits. Let me say that again. Developer would do the business, will build the homes if you increase their profits. That's just the way it works. You don't go and create a business, or developers are in the business game and they're not going out and doing this out of charity. They're doing this to make money. That's what developers do. Think of it yourself. Have you ever thought of developing? Have you ever thought of, making a duplex or, adding a granny flat to your home? Why do you do it? You do it because the numbers make sense. You're not doing it because you want to solve a national housing problem. Maybe you are, but you'd be a complete anomaly if you're in that circumstance. People just don't do that. People build homes when the numbers make sense to do so. Either it's cash flow, rental yields go up and, the income on housing increases, or it's just actual wealth from building those homes. This is where the state plays a role, because if they change your land from a duplex site to a quadplex site, then you're going to make more money. That's why you're going to go and do it. You need to make sure that the landowners turn in from actually, just a land change to actually producing output. But the best way to do that is to create the incentives to make it happen. If you upzone land out in Western Sydney and say, let's build apartments everywhere, and the apartment end values in those locations are 400, 500,000, then you may not actually get results, because it may cost the developer $300,000, $400,000 to build that apartment. And they're going to look at the numbers being like, look, if it cost me $300,000, $400,000 to build one apartment and they only sell for $400,000, I ain't going to do it. Meanwhile, if you go and do it in the eastern suburbs and say, look, on this little piece of land here, this 600 square meter block, the odd 600 square meter block in these suburbs, if I go and let you put a 50 level tower in there, guess what? The value of that home shoots up, because that's going to be super attractive. And that home is going to get built because it's too unproductive in its current sense, and it's simply too profitable to not do. And money will find a home, which then comes into my fourth point. Money. This is banks and financial institutions. These are the people who actually provide the credit to go to the developers who go and build these homes. Now, a lot of developers have a lot of cash, of course, but credit markets play a really critical role in, a well-functioning society and in a private sector in actually building more homes. Now, the government has a little bit of a limited say here. They have a huge balance sheet, and they can use that balance sheet to provide credit or take on risk or guarantee, these developers, but it would be pretty irresponsible if the government's using their balance sheet to protect developers from loss, because it's just risky. Developing is a really risky sort of business. It can go wrong. There's so many things that could go wrong through the process: delays, cost blowouts, planning delays, this, that. Lots and lots of things can go wrong. Do the government really want to be providing their balance sheet to go and provide funding risks and cover one of their costs for a developer? I don't think so. I think it's a conversation, a question that the government can have, especially the federal government. But I think it's an answer that they have with, nah, I shouldn't go and provide our balance sheet to developers to go on solving this problem. Developers, go get your own money. Banks, you give them the money. And you know what? We'll work with the banks to come up with, really well profitable ratios for the banks to go and give you the money in the most seamless way possible and manage that risk as much as possible. But we want that risk to be on the bank's shareholders, not on the public as a whole. So those are the 4 key players to solving this housing affordability problem. It also goes through the entire housing cycle from, the beginning all the way to a new dwelling. And the answer is we really need to build up in certain locations. The state government is already onto it in New South Wales, and they're reacting to federal government policy. And now it's up to developers to go and do it. And then the money side will hopefully take care of itself and, step in and provide, regulatory controls to help support banks and developers and ensure that relationship is as healthy as possible to make them build the homes. There's Australia's solution to our housing problem.